Welcome to Middle Math Academy Dividing Decimals level number 5. This is part of our differentiated series where we have 5 levels of challenge for every topic. Let's get started. Our learning targets today are I can divide decimals and whole numbers, and I can divide numbers when the divisor is a power of 10. You're going to rate yourself before the lesson. How confident do you feel in our learning targets? 1 is the least confident, and 5 is the most confident. At the end of the lesson today, we'll rate ourselves again to see how confident we are after we've gotten some more practice. Let's look at our opening note. Make sure you're writing with me. If you are dividing by a power of 10, you can count how many zeros there are, then move the decimal in the divisor the same amount of spaces. Let's practice with some examples. Let's zoom in on our first opening problem. We know we're dividing by a power of 10 if our divisor ends in zeros. So what we can do is we can simply rewrite our dividend exactly how it's written. And if there's no decimals in your dividend, you'll just start with your decimal at the end of your number, and then you move it back however many zeros there were. So we had 2 zeros in this example, so we're going to move it to the left 1, 2, and our answer is 214 and 32 hundredths. Complete the next 2 opening problems. Come back to the video when you're ready to check your work. Here's a neater look at our first opening problem. Let's check our second opening problem now. Check your work. And lastly, let's check our third opening problem. Pause the video, check your work, and come back to the video when you're ready for some more notes. Our notes are going to be really helpful today. If you need any help, you can always refer back to these. So we'll take all of our notes, and then we'll practice with some more examples. So our first note is, if the divisor is a decimal, move the decimal point to the right until it's a whole number. Note number 2, move the decimal point in the dividend, the number being divided, the same number of places to the right. Add zeros if needed. So if you're moving your number to the right and there's nothing there, you can add a 0. Then we're going to place our decimal point directly above the new location of the decimal point in the dividend. So directly above the house. Don't forget, we're going to practice this in our examples. It's something we can refer back to for now. Note number 4, then we're just going to treat it like long division. So we're going to continue the long division process as we normally would, bringing down zeros if we have a remainder. Okay, and like I said, we'll go over that in our examples. So our normal long division process is we're going to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then repeat. Pause the video, make sure you have these notes down, then we'll get started with some examples. Level number 5 is our most challenging level, so this video is going to move pretty quickly. If you're feeling like you need more practice, go back to level 1, which is just long division, or you could practice with level 2, 3, and 4, which have some more guidance. Let's take a look at example A. Dividing decimals is super similar to long division. The main difference is at the beginning of the problem, you look at our second number, our divisor, and you make it a whole number. So we're going to have to move the decimal forward 3 spots for it to become 8. Now, if you move the divisor forward 3 spots, then you have to move your dividend forward 3 spots too. So this will become 42,616. So let's set up our division problem. One of the main things to remember is that your numbers should not be touching. They should be a pinky's worth distance apart. We'll put our dividend inside the house and our divisor outside the house. Now this number doesn't have a decimal in our dividend. If there was a decimal here, and you don't have to write that dot, if there was a decimal here, my quotient would have a decimal directly above it, just for future problems. All right, so go ahead and finish solving this problem. Then come back to the video to check your work. Pause the video, check your work for example A. Complete example B. Come back to the video when you're ready to check your work for B. For example B, the first thing you should have done is move our divisor forward 2 spots and then our dividend forward 2 spots. So when you set up your problem, it should look like this. So we have 589.9481 divided by 7. Make sure that you have a space between your numbers and they're not touching or close together. If you haven't finished this problem yet, go ahead and finish it. Come back to the video when you're ready to check your work. Pause the video, take some time and really check your work here. This was a longer one. And once you're finished checking your work, check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. Come back to the video when you're ready for page 2. On page 2, complete problems A, B, C, and D. Pause the video, come back when you're ready to check your work. Check your work for problem A. In previous levels, all of our dividends were whole numbers. Remember, you just count how many zeros there are, and wherever the decimal is, you move it back the same amount of spaces. So in this case, we moved it back 2 because there were 2 zeros. Let's check our work for problem B. Now, if you move your decimal back, in this case, it would be 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. If there's no numbers there, you'll add zeros. Let's check our work for problem C. Pause the video, check your work. And let's check problem D. Go ahead and complete the rest of page 2, then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. On page 3, I want you to start off by completing problem A, C, and problem E. So complete these 3 problems, then come back to the video to check your work. Check your work for problem A. Check your work for problem C. If you got stuck at the point where you had 4 left and nothing to bring down, you had a remainder of 4, remember, you add a decimal and then a 0, and then you can bring down a 0. So in this problem, our new number became 40, and then we even brought down another 0. Check your work, fix any errors. Come back to the video when you're ready to check E. In problem E, to start off, you should have moved your divisor 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces forward to get 25. And when we do the same thing in our dividend, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see there's nothing in our 4th loop. That's why we're going to add a 0, and our new dividend will be 625750. So first, make sure you set up the problem correctly. It should look like this, except hopefully a little bit neater. And then once you've solved, come back to the video. Check your work for problem E. Then complete the rest of page 3 and check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. On page 4, start off by completing problems B and D. Pause the video, come back when you're ready to check your work for just those 2 problems. Check your work for problem B. On problem D, you should have started off by moving our decimal and our divisor forward 3 spots, 1, 2, 3, to get 4. And whatever you do to your divisor, you have to do to your dividend also. So I'm going to move it forward 1, 2, 3. If there's nothing in those 2 spots, remember, we're just going to add zeros. So this becomes 9,600 divided by 4, which will look like this when you set it up. If you didn't set it up this way, go ahead and fix it, finish solving, and then come back to the video to check your work. Check your work for problem D. Complete the rest of page 4, then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. On page 5, I want you to complete problems A, C, and problem E. Once you're finished these 3 problems, come back to the video to check your work. Check your work for problem A. Check your work for problem C. Remember, if you have nothing to bring down, you can add a decimal and a 0, and then bring the 0 down. Check your work for problem E. Once again, we had a remainder of 4, and there was nothing to bring down, so you can add a decimal and a 0, and then bring the 0 down. Then your new number is 40. Complete the rest of page 5, then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. Complete all of page 6. Once you finish all of page 6, come back to the video to check your work. We're only going to check one of these problems. On page 6, we're going to go over the common misconception problem. You were supposed to determine who is correct and then solve under that person's name. So in this case, Curtis is correct because he moved the decimal in his divisor forward 3 and his dividend forward 3. However, Dave incorrectly moved the decimal to the right 2 times in his divisor. Okay, so pause the video, check your work here. And to close out today, don't forget to answer our debrief questions in your own words. What did you learn today? How much effort did you put in during class? Rate yourself 1 through 5. And what do you think is a common misconception or a common mistake students might make when dividing decimals or dividing powers of 10? Once you've finished all of page 6, you're going to go back to page number 1. At the beginning of today's lesson, we rated ourselves on our learning targets 1 through 5. Now, when you go back to page 1, since we've had some more practice, you're going to rate yourself again next to after the lesson. So finish page 6 if you haven't, rate yourself after the lesson on page 1, and then check in with your teacher to get additional feedback. Thank you for joining us today at Middle Math Academy, where we practice dividing decimals level number 5. This is part of our differentiated series where we have 5 levels of challenge for every topic. If you're looking for any additional practice, make sure to check out levels 1, which focuses just on long division, level 2, level 3, or level 4. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day.